closer mentality. I'm your host, Julia Mellett. Today's guest, Emelia Dermott-Goodin, proves that small but mighty isn't just a moniker. Standing at 5'5.5", Dermott-Goodin isn't exactly an imposing force. Her parents were determined to add vigor to their daughter, and they tried all the sports and activities that Toronto could suggest. The Canadians' experience with sport and toughness as a concept began as many do, on the ice.
Played hockey for a little bit, as every Canadian kid does, but I stopped when I was about 8 or 10, around that age, and I got super into acting and singing, and I was like, I'm gonna be famous. So total drama nerd for a while, and then my brother has always been just the best athlete. So he was, and he's younger, which is really annoying because I'm super competitive. I'm like, how is my younger brother beating me at all of these things? But he was an amazing skier and started competing in moguls, aerials, freestyle skiing when he was 8 years old. I'm like, oh my God, I should. And so I'm around his team and all these really athletic people. And so I started to feel a little insecure about it because I'm like, the drama and everything is fun. I love to sing, I love to act, but it's not really, it's just not moving your body in the same way that sports were. So I kind of brought that up with my parents, and my dad was doing boxing for fitness. So he's like, well, just come to the gym. Let's see what that's about. And at 11, I went to my first boxing class and fell in love with it instantly. And then I think I had my first fight within 2 years of that and was on the national team by 15. So it was as soon as I started, I was absolutely go, go, go. But a really random transition from I'm going to be a singer and an actress to I'm going to punch people in the face for a living.
At the time, both of Dermott-Goodin's parents were incredibly apprehensive at the thought of subjecting their daughter to boxing competitively. Now middle school aged, Dermott-Goodin's extracurricular activities didn't align with any of her peers.
It's not a sport that parents are like, oh, I'm going to put my young girl into boxing. It's a lot of, I also went to an all-girls school at this time. So it was cheerleading and dance and all of that. And then I'm like, no, I want to get in the ring. I want to get hit. I want to hit other people, which is crazy to hear a little girl say. But my parents were always really supportive in that. And it was I've always been a bit of a daddy's girl. So he's like, you want to play hockey? I'm like, yeah, sure. Let's play hockey. I loved being around the guys. And so that was an easier transition for me. Plus I was into drama and all these things. So I loved being unique. And so it was kind of an interesting transition, but definitely not something people tend to put their daughters into. Boys more so. So I own my own gym now. And so I get calls all the time. Oh, my sons want to box. My sons want to box. And I'm still yet to see someone bring in their 8-year-old daughter. So it's definitely, it's just the patterns of life, I guess.
At 11 years old, Dermott-Goodin was seeing firsthand the pressures of a weight training sport. Surrounded by girls going through puberty and figuring out their bodies, Dermott-Goodin was learning a lesson of her own. Instead of feeling insecure about the way her body was changing, boxing allowed a perspective shift. The sport created a place where strength was revered, where you were taught to handle yourself with poise and control.
I think it was really important at that age, especially being at an all-girls school, everyone's talking about, oh, well, she's getting boobs early and her body looks like this. And it's very aesthetic focused. And that was a big push for me where I wasn't a fat kid by any means, but I was just oh, well, some of these other girls are training all the time and you're starting to get muscle tone in some ways. And it's very, everyone's very aware of what everyone looks like at that age. And so and your body's changing. So it's very, a lot of people are very insecure at that age. And so for me to kind of go into a sport where you're not just trying to be super skinny, you're trying to build muscle and feel powerful, that was a really cool change in my mindset because it wasn't oh, well, who's the skinniest? It's, okay, well now can I beat up a boy? That's awesome. So it definitely changed my idea of what a woman should feel and look like, which I was so happy I had that early on.
The gym itself also opened Dermott-Goodin's eyes to team support coming from unlikely peers.
You look at someone like me, and then you look at someone like Clarissa Shields, and then I've got like this 14-year-old boy, and then this 43-year-old woman. And like it's so cool because you're on a team, but a lot of team sports, you're secretly still competing within that team. And so I think about soccer players when you're 11, like you're all trying to get that spot to the next level. Whereas with boxing, yeah, you might have someone else who happens to be in your weight class, but that's still pretty rare within one gym. And so you have this team they all look different. So there's no like beauty standard. I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about that coming up, but it is really cool to see that different representation and that the what success looks like is it has nothing to do with what your body looks like or what color your hair is or how long your eyelashes are. Like it's really cool. It's very powerful, like strength based as opposed to aesthetic, which I thought was very amazing for me growing up because there's no like aesthetic competition. Whereas you definitely see that in more of the aesthetic sports like dance and cheerleading, where everyone wants like to look a certain way. And so I was happy I didn't have that, although it still is a weight class sport. And so there's definitely aspects that are not the healthiest. But growing up, that was really cool to be around such a diverse group of people. And not even just for the confidence, but just for life experience and being around like people of different races and ages and sizes. It's just the fact that that was normalized so young for me, I feel like really was amazing growing up.
As Dermott-Goodin insinuated, boxing is a weight class sport. Though she began her career in boxing surrounded by positive body image practices, the older she got, the more the inherent weight class metrics weaseled their way into her psyche.
Right now, I'm like 130-ish, and I was fighting at 112 pounds. So I'm 20 pounds heavier than I was there, and I still like to think that I'm fit and lean. And then I remember how I was back then. I'm like, oh my God, I was so tiny and just trying to be smaller and smaller and smaller because you do want to be at the top of your weight class. So you like, if the category is, I fought at, I want to say, what was it? It was like 190, or sorry, not 190, like 98 pounds to 112 pounds. And so you definitely want to be 112 pounds, which meant I was cutting from 120. And to be cutting weight for your entire life it definitely changes your idea because it's so scale based, right? It's I need to hit this exact number. And if I'm above this number, you have that anxiety of, oh, well, my accomplishments don't matter because I was 118 instead of 112. And so there is a lot that comes with the weight class sports. And then you have this idea of and a lot of female athletes go through it, where you want to be strong and powerful for your sport, but what that looks like can be very bulky and muscular, and that is not necessarily the beauty standard aesthetic for the general population. So you have that competing. You're like, well, I want to put on muscle because I want to win, but if I do that, am I still pretty? And so that kind of messes with people a lot as well when you're in sports that prioritize like the bulkier figure and actually like moving heavy weight. So yeah, there's pros and cons to every sport, I think.
When Dermott-Goodin was competing, she had barely reached her teenage years. She began boxing at 11 years old and was a national champion by 14. She became a 5-time Canadian national boxing champion. She was tearing through the country's competition. She couldn't get enough. Trainings, weigh-ins, bouts, this was her routine. It became so second nature to Dermott-Goodin that when body dysmorphia and disordered eating began to materialize, they were written off as the pursuit of greatness.
I look back at when I was 11, mental health is not like mental health is just something everyone has, right? You're just somewhere on the spectrum. And I think that my mental health would fluctuate depending on certain things. When I started boxing, I was really, really small. And so I definitely had this body dysmorphia type of situation going on, but it wasn't like I wasn't going to go see anyone because I felt fat at 95 pounds. I was just like, you just kind of normalize that. And so when I really started to understand how important the mental health aspect is, it was okay. So I started traveling internationally at about 15. So I would have been, I think probably 15-ish. And I was at this competition in Ireland. And by that time, I had 20 plus fights. And I was fighting this girl who had 5 fights. It should have been a super, super easy win. She was really nothing. Like she looked like she had 5 fights. I went in, and I remember just sitting there in the ring and I'm like trying to put my hands up and I'm like, oh, I just completely froze and I'm like, she's gonna win this fight. Like I'm just gonna try to, I just don't want to get knocked out, which was very different than any of my other fights. And so I kind of blacked out for that whole fight. I got out of the ring, I'm crying, and my dad happened to be there, which was amazing. And we were just like, something's wrong. Like this is not who I am. I was at the time I didn't realize I was overtraining. I just thought that I really wanted to be great, and so I was training all the time. And I'm like, this is awesome. But totally, that was my first experience with burnout. And so after that, I actually started working with a sports psychologist who helped a lot. It was nice to have someone there who kind of understood what I was going through and to understand that what I was going through was not an isolated to just me. Like so many people go through that. And so a lot of what he had me do was a lot of research based stuff. He's like, okay, go find your favorite athlete, go find someone you really admire and tell me about their struggles. Tell me about times where they plateaued. And that was really cool for me to understand that even these people at the highest level still go through stuff like this. But you also do need to understand that there's a reason I was going through that burnout. So then to work with a professional to kind of go through those steps and really internalize what was going on, how I can be in control of it. The coach I was working with at the time was amazing. And so he was like, absolutely take whatever time you need. And he was just such a great support through that as well. So that was 15 was probably the first time I really realized that the mental aspect in sport is as if important, if not more important than the physical aspect. I have my own athletes now. I work as a mental performance coach and I'm a boxing coach. So I look at the signs a lot. And I think for me it was the overtraining. It was and I was actually talking to an athlete about it earlier today where you always think that training more is better. And I feel like with social media and everything too, you see all these posts where you're like, oh, well, my opponent's asleep, I'm training. I'm like, no, go to bed. You need to sleep too. What are we doing? And so like it's just such a go, go, go culture. And you think that the more you can physically tax your body, the more your body will adjust to that, which is true to a certain extent. But as soon as you push past that extent, you're now plateauing. And that's really frustrating. I think that that's really where the burnout comes from, is where all of a sudden you're seeing all these, you're training really hard, you're seeing so many improvements, and then all of a sudden you just stop seeing improvements, and sometimes you even get worse. And then I see a lot of athletes up their training because they're like, well, I'm obviously not training enough, which is why I'm not getting better anymore, so I need to improve more. What I love to see is, okay, cool, you're taking a week off. And they're like, oh, no, I can't possibly take a week off. I'm going to lose everything I've trained for. And I was absolutely like that. I'm like, okay, well, you're not allowed to come to the gym this week. So you need to go read a book, sing a song, play guitar, meet up with some friends, do something that is not related to sport or physical activity, and then come back to the gym. And what you see is everyone's so stressed. And the first day they're like so anxious. And then they're way better than they were before the break. And you're like, oh, okay. So this was an overtraining issue. This wasn't an undertraining issue. But it's really hard to self-regulate that when you're such a driven athlete. Because to say, oh, you know what, I am going to take today off without a professional telling you, you're like, well, now I feel like I'm being lazy or I feel like I'm not doing enough. And so then you start to spiral mentally as well. And so to work with professionals and to just really trust your body is really important, but it's tough. It's a really tough transition. And I remember when I was overtraining, I would have coaches say, no, like you need to go hang out with friends. You need to go meet someone new. You can't just be training all of the time and thinking about boxing all the time. And then in my head, I'm like, well, they don't want me to succeed. They don't know who I am. And then you're right, a year later I burnt out. So it's finding people that you really trust and who you know are looking out for you is so important, because then when you hear stuff like that, you're like, oh, they have my best interest at heart. They're not trying to limit me or whatever 13-year-old me thought they were doing. It's so important to have that support system as well. First and foremost, if I see that someone is like engaging in unsafe eating behaviors, all of that, I do recommend that they go see a professional for that. That is something I take very seriously, and it's out of my scope. I can like mental performance is finicky because there's a lot of things out of your scope, but there's a lot of things in your scope, and then sometimes athletes don't take your advice to go see professionals, and so there's a lot of nuance to it. But because I'm so hyper aware, like right now I have a couple athletes who want to fight at lower weight classes. And so I'm like, okay, well, and I kind of do a bit of a history on them where I'm like, hey, well, have you ever had an eating disorder? What are your eating habits like right now? And so I try to figure out what some quick fixes are, not quick fixes, but easy adjustments are so that it's not, okay, well, now you're weighing yourself every single day. Because that's another thing Boxing Canada made you do is you had to weigh yourself every single day. And if you were outside that 5% of what your weight class was, and so for me, that's like, so I worked with a dietitian who's a professional and he's amazing. And he's like, you need to walk around at 120, especially if you want to start putting on muscle and building that, and then we'll cut to 112. And we always did it great. But with Boxing Canada, if I was outside 116, I get flagged, and it could be a reason they wouldn't take me on training camps. So I definitely don't do especially as a woman, I'm like, I'll get my period and then I'm 10 pounds heavier now. So it's like, it's finicky. So I make sure that if they're like, yeah, I have had an eating disorder, then we just have a realistic conversation about what weight class they're actually going to fight at. Because if someone comes to me and even if they're heavy and they're like, well, I have an eating disorder or I had an eating disorder, I'm not going to say, okay, well, now lose 50 pounds, right? So it's case by case. And I'm very open with them. I want all of my athletes in for the decision making, especially like as the coach, more so than as the mental performance aspect. It's just so important to me that people love their bodies, and there's a lot of things you can do, especially if someone's like truly fighting at a weight class that's too heavy. There's a lot of things you can do just to bring the weight off. But I still don't have them weighing in every single day of the week. We usually, especially when we're getting close to fights, we weigh in one day a week at the exact same time, usually in the morning, every single day, so that it's realistic and it's not, because I remember what I'd be weighing myself 50 times a day, like not even exaggerating. I knew how much an apple weighed. I knew how much every single article of clothing weighed because I weigh myself with clothing. I'm like, ooh, too heavy, and then I'd strip down. So a lot of it is my own bias on that, and that's something that I struggle with a little bit with the mental performance and even coaching aspect, where I'm like, okay, I know that this is a trigger for me, but just because it's a trigger for me doesn't mean it's a trigger for someone else. So I try to find that middle ground, but it's a case by case basis, and I've been around boxing and weight classes long enough to know what's a realistic cut and what's unhealthy, and so we just make sure we're staying clear of that unhealthy range. And if we're trying to make a weight and it's not working, then okay, we're not gonna, I don't have any athletes competing for the Olympics right now. Like we're looking at club shows, and I'm like, if 5 pounds is gonna stress you out and make you hyperfixate, it's not a fight that's worth taking right now.
Is something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Regardless of if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or if you're just a human in this world going through a hard time, therapy can give you the tools to approach your life in a positive way. That's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and more accessible. This is an important mission because finding a therapist can be really hard, especially when you're limited to the options just in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. If this sounds like something that could help you, there's a link in the show notes to get you started on your therapy journey. It's betterhelp.com/closer mentality. Clicking that link helps support this channel, but it also gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. Because finding a therapist is a little like dating.
If you don't really fit with the therapist matched with you, it's easy and free to switch therapists without stressing about insurance, who's in your network, or anything like that. So if you're struggling, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/closer mentality. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/closer mentality. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this channel. Did you know that you can purchase audiobooks directly from your favorite local bookstore? With Libro FM, you can pick from more than 325,000 audiobooks, including bestsellers and recommendations from real booksellers. You'll get the same audiobooks at the same price as the largest audiobook company out there, you know the name. But you'll be part of a different story, one that supports your local community. If you're new to audiobooks, they're the perfect way to squeeze more reading into your busy life. Listen with the free Libro FM app while you do chores, walk the dog, or relax at home. If you already love audiobooks and don't know what to listen to next, check out recommendations from the people who know best, booksellers. Closer Mentality has partnered with Libro FM on a special offer. Through the link in the show notes, you can get 2 audiobooks on Libro FM for the price of 1. Offer only valid for new members in Canada and the US. Thanks to Libro FM for sponsoring this podcast.
Dermott-Goodin touts pieces of her support system highly, especially when, only a few years into her career, she completely burned out. A mixture of overtraining and toxic coaching behaviors nearly pushed her to leave the sport entirely.
I burnt out during COVID. It was kind of that scenario of, it was a mixture of so many things. In terms of just my own mental, it was really difficult because I wasn't allowed to spar or train with anyone else, and I wasn't able to fight. And so I was essentially, but I had to make weight. And so I'm doing all of the worst parts about training without any of the things that I actually love. I'm like, well, why? Like, I want to do this because I want to fight. If I just wanted to hit the bag, I would go to a cardio class. And so that was frustrating. And then you have no measure of your improvement. And so we were going on and in Canada, the lockdown was really, really intense. And so it was just me and my coach. And that was really difficult because there was no test of improvement. And then the Olympic qualifier was coming up. I'm like, I haven't sparred anyone in 2 years. And now I'm supposed to go to this qualifier. And so that was really tough. All of the fun parts of the sport were taken away, and then all of the negative parts were really amplified. The weight cut was a huge thing. I grew. When I stopped training, and I was 112 pounds since I was 14. And what happens to your body is you train, and it doesn't develop. And then all of a sudden I took this kind of not break from training, but I wasn't making that weight all the time. And then I got hips, and I was like, oh my God, get rid of these. We can't have this, because all of a sudden I'm carrying, and it wasn't a lot of weight, but it was 5 extra pounds. Probably not even, but it makes it really difficult to hit 112 pounds. Plus the motivation isn't there because I don't get a fight. I just have to lose weight to step on a scale, and I'm already starving myself, and I'm already not enjoying the sport. And then my coach definitely didn't help. She had a really weird thing with weight. And granted, it is a weight class sport, and there were only, I think they've added 5. So there's 5 weight classes in women's boxing in the Olympics, but there was 51 kilos was one, and then 57 kilos was the next one. And so 51 is 112, and 57 is 125, which at that weight is a huge weight difference. And so the Olympics was always my dream. And so then I had to make this, but I was talk to my coach. I'm I can't make this weight, and I'm depressed. So depressed, and I'm not enjoying it. And she took that as a terrible offense to her. She's like, well, I guess I'm the worst coach ever because you're not enjoying. I was like, no, it's not what I'm saying. But I remember standing there, and I'm 115 pounds, looking in the mirror, and I was like, oh my God. I was talking to my coach. I'm tell me where the weight is going to come from. Tell me. And then she's picking at my arm. She's like, oh, well, you still got fat there and there. And it's yeah. And so I think that was devastating for me. And then she was tough for a lot of reasons. She had some bad relationships with previous athletes who had left the gym, and she would kind of hyper focus on those athletes and the negativity, and she would bully them, and she'd get us to bully them. It was just this really toxic environment. And I'd go in, I'd show up, I always showed up 30 minutes for training, I'd get my warm up done. And then she would kind of come in and we'd spend like an hour talking about how she hates her neighbor and how this other athlete is so fat. And like, it was just, and so I'm like, it's just, it was all this negativity. So that was really tough. And then she was very like, I feel like she just felt like she had so much access to me. And so like, I don't know, like it started, she was just like very touchy, like, which is fine for coaching in certain ways. There's definitely been a huge shift, like don't randomly touch your athletes, but we just kind of weren't there yet. And so she would like just always stand very close, and then she'd like comment on my boobs and my butt and all of these things. I'm like, oh, I just like I'm already so insecure because I feel so skinny. And she's like, well, you have no ass. And I'm like, yeah, I know, because you won't let me put on any weight. But so there's this one girl who's like maybe 14 years old, and my coach went by and she like squeezed her butt is probably an exaggeration, but definitely she tapped her ass. And she's like, "Oh, your big girl muscles are coming in." I'm like, "What is that?" And it was all stuff that she had done to me. I'm like, "Oh, I feel like I'm now normalizing this stuff, and I'm now like it was these girls who looked up to me. I'm like, I can't make that the standard." And so I think that was really the one that kind of pushed me over the edge. Plus, I was like heavily depressed and couldn't make weight. And so there were a lot of aspects. But the coaching thing, it was just, especially during COVID when it was just me and her, I'm like, I can't do that. I felt like I was trying to bring up the fact that I was depressed and that I was struggling, and she just disregarded it. And she's like, well, you can't be depressed. I'm the only one who's allowed to be depressed. I'm like, okay. So there wasn't a lot of support there, and it was actually then turned on me. I'm like, I feel like guilty now for even being depressed. So definitely needed to take that step back. But she was a bully, so I didn't want to go, like, I didn't want to see her at competitions. I still don't want to see her. There's been a lot of complaints then placed on her. I know a bunch of athletes had gone to court about it. And there's it's the tip of the iceberg. There was a lot of messed up shit, but it was important for me to do that. And honestly, it gave me time to finish my degree. I met my husband. Well, I had known my husband, but my husband and I were like, yeah, let's do this, and we did a massive road trip and then got married. And it's just stuff that I wouldn't have done while I was boxing because I was so 100% in. And so taking that step back has really emphasized the work-life balance, and that life needs to be enjoyable. And if you lose that enjoyment, you need to take a couple steps back to figure out where you lost it and then rebuild that. So that's what I've been doing now, and it's been awesome because now I have the boxing gym, and so I'm working with these athletes, and obviously like safe sport coaching is really important to me. And so it's been really great working with all these new people and just being able to be a positive aspect of their training and their journey. It's been really rewarding, and it's helping little baby me heal quite a bit.
While she was so focused on perfecting the physical aspects of her performance to please those around her, the mental game was getting neglected. In a sport with such minimal downtime like boxing, Dermott-Goodin learned quickly how impactful getting your mentals right is.
There's so many aspects, and I know what it looked like for me, but the more I work with these other athletes, the more I realize that there's just so many different skills, just like strength conditioning, right? If you're just squatting all the time, yeah, your legs might get stronger, but you're neglecting these other things. And so I think for me, self-talk was a huge one for me, where because I was so anxious and I was like, I always wanted to be the best. I wanted to win. And so I'd place like such a heavy weight on myself. And so figuring out the things that I can say to myself during a fight to help reset, because sometimes you'll get decked with a really hard punch. You're like, whoa. And before I really started working on the mental side of things, I'd get hit, and then I'd be like, well, I may as well give up because they've obviously won. And so why even try? I just want to get out. And so after that, you're like, okay, cool. They hit me with a punch. That's my cue to hit them with a punch. And so figuring out how to reset really quickly, especially in a sport where there's so many uncontrollables. So figuring out one, what your uncontrollables are and what your controllables are. And really that I always go back to the self-talk where it's okay, you're in the corner. You have 1 minute to reset before the next round. If you're losing, how can you turn that around in 1 minute? So a lot of what I do with my athletes is we give them a lot more time. And so like, okay, well, I use thought records a lot of the time where I'll say, okay, well, you have this thought, and let me try and think of an example. I'll have one girl who she comes in, she's amazing but super anxious, and so she'll text me. She's like, "Do I need to come into training today?" And I was like, "Well, why do you not want to come to training today?" She's like, "Oh, I'm just not feeling like I'm just a little nervous." I'm like, "Then yeah, absolutely, you have to come to training today. If that's what your barriers, absolutely come in." And so we started talking about what her triggers are, and what those thoughts that are preventing her from performing are. So if she's so anxious that it's tough for her to even come to the gym, and so I'm like, hey, well, walk me through those thoughts. She's like, well, if I come to the gym, I feel like I'm gonna suck, and I feel like people are gonna judge me, and I feel like you're not gonna want to coach me, and da 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 da. And so then we're like, okay, cool. These are the thoughts. Give me the feeling that's associated with that. And so with her, it's a lot of anxiety, insecurities, stuff like that. And then we rank them. We're like, okay, so these are your thoughts, these are your feelings, and your feelings are probably at like a 90% anxiety right now. And then we go into the facts. And so this is and I'm a very, like, for someone who's in a feeling profession, I'm very analytical. And so then we talk about, okay, well, what are the actual facts of the situation? What are things that can be proven? Uh, she's trained tired before. She's trained anxious before. People still like her. People still talk to her. I still have wanted to coach her. And so then once we kind of talk through that, we go back to what the feelings are. And all of a sudden there's new feelings like excitement and comfortability. And then the anxiety might still be there, but instead of a 90, we're sitting at a 30. And so that is obviously a very long process. But once you kind of understand what those triggers are and what the feeling to fact connection is, you can then do that in a minute, in 10 seconds, in 5 seconds. And so then you expedite that process, but it is a routine. It's the exact same thing as strength and conditioning. If you train one time a month, you're not going to see the progress, and you're definitely not going to see that progress in a fight. So it's building these habits and these thought patterns and kind of helping them shift to more productive patterns.
The 1 minute rest period made Dermott-Goodin realize how fleeting those moments of calm reflection were between rounds. The nature of those seconds required her to fine-tune her reset routines, a facet of boxing's mental side that she says is sorely lacking.
I think that it's just, what can I do next to keep the needle moving, to stay in the game? And so that was very, as opposed to before I started training, kind of what I was saying, where if someone hits me with a good combo and now I'm on the back foot, I'm like, oh, now I need to make up these punches, or I need, like, what do I do? And you're like, I can't build a 3-minute game plan in 2 seconds, but what I can do is throw another punch. Okay, cool. I've thrown that punch. Let me throw another one. Let me stand my ground. Let me sit down for a bit. It's what can I do within a second to keep myself in the game.
When she got her competition mental state down, Dermott-Goodin was finally able to view the waves of a fight as micro chances to get right with her mind and body.
For me, and I've done a lot of research on flow state, so it does kind of translate, but for me, everything would go in slow motion. It's all of a sudden I'm like dodging punches before I even see them being thrown and stuff like that. We're like, whoa, like I feel like I'm in the Matrix. I'm like, what? Oh, and then I can be like, wow, that was so cool. But it's also hard to know that you're in flow state when you're in flow state. It's more of an after the fact kind of thing. We're like, a lot of the time I don't even remember my fight. And which is really tough when you're waiting for the decision, because I'll go to my coach and I'm like, I definitely lost that for sure. And they're like, you broke her nose. What are you talking about? And so it's hard to be like, you're so hyper aware. And then as soon as it's done, you're like, whoa, what just happened? Like, time's not real. So yeah, I think the slow time is always my cue of, oh my God, like I'm seeing things before they happen. I'm in that state. And that's usually my biggest cue, or all of a sudden it's easier to breathe. Like boxing's a really intense sport. And then I can be there, I'm like I'm relaxed, and you can almost hear yourself breathe. And I could also hear, I had one coach, I talk about him all the time, Ryan Ranelli, he's amazing. And he spoke so quietly, but I could only hear his voice. And so when I would hear that cue, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, we're going, we're in it. So flow is always so awesome, but it's a lot of muscle memory that like I call it autopilot for my athletes, where like right now when we're learning a skill, you are not an autopilot. You're so hyper aware of what your body's doing, how you're throwing a punch. And that's actually why I think newer athletes make better coaches than athletes who have been doing it for so long. Because someone will ask me to correct their jab. And I'm like, how do you throw? How do you throw a jab? I'm like, just do it like this. And so you go from this super hyper aware state to, okay, well, maybe you can do it in shadow boxing where there's no pressure. But as soon as you have pressure, you really figure out what everyone's baseline is. What can they do automatically without needing to think about it, because you don't have that thought processing time. And so the more you can train outside and be aware of your movements, be aware of what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your triggers are in terms of your mental, and then fix them outside of the ring. Once you step in the ring, your autopilot's at so much of a higher level. It's also why I like I drill fundamentals like crazy. I'm like, I'd rather you have a essentially perfect jab than you can do a bunch of things kind of okay. Because if you can do all those things okay, you're not going to be able to do them in a fight. So now you're just limiting all the skills you can actually use. I way rather you have 2 or 3 amazing skills, and then we build from there.
Are you an athlete rehabbing from an injury? Are you a coach or athletic trainer seeking additional support for your injured athlete toolkits? KT Tape has exactly what you need. KT Tape is a rehabilitation tape that helps stabilize and compress sensitive areas of the body during exercise. Apply KT Tape to an area either in pain or in recovery and feel the difference. KT Tape is comfortable, stable, and long-wearing. There's tape for all modes of action, from gentle, which is safe for easy activity and everyday use, to pro extreme, for athletes in moderate to high impact exercise. KT Tape makes water-resistant tape as well for a more adaptable rehabilitation implementation. KT Tape caters to lifelong athletes and focuses on reducing muscle soreness for all users when worn during exercise and up to 48 hours post. Are you an athlete in need of prescription sports goggles or sunglasses? Today's final sponsor may have just the solution for you. A Sight for Sport Eyes was created when founder Shannon Knight saw a niche that was perpetually going unfulfilled. A Sight for Sport Eyes grew out of a need for education surrounding the impact of sport-related eye injuries and their lasting repercussions. A Sight for Sport Eyes runs like a regular optical practice, not an e-commerce store. Their goal is to give you the same high-quality service and name-brand lenses made by the best optical laboratories in the country, geared specifically for athletes and athletic use cases. If you need new lenses or frames, A Sight for Sport Eyes is the perfect place to get them. The links to BetterHelp.com, Libro FM, KT Tape, and A Sight for Sport Eyes are all in the show notes. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Dermott-Goodin's perspective on how to train female athletes shifted after removing herself from the sport that allowed for body dysmorphia and toxic coaching practices to be normalized. Now, she and her husband founded a gym that caters to female athletes, and Dermott-Goodin feels like she's found her platform.
My husband and I both stepped away from our kind of 9 to 5s. We needed a change of pace, and we were both looking for jobs and sales and and nothing was really sticking. And it was just kind of like, it's a job, like we need to make money, we need to get a job. And then I was on this coaching chat, and so the past owner, who is an amazing woman, and I love that it was a female-run gym before, but she was selling her gym, and I was like, let's go check it out. Like, we had some money saved up. I'm like, okay, let's go see what this is about. And it's beautiful. Again, you can tell it was female run. It is so clean. Everything's organized. And they have the boxing side and then also a strength and conditioning side, which I loved, because my end goal is to build kind of like a high performance hub for boxers, but other athletes as well. Like, I want to be able to support them with nutrition and coaching and strength and conditioning and physio and all of these things. I love being around high performance. And so the more I can develop it into that, the happier I am. So that was really cool. And I met with her, and I think her and I just clicked. We were both like strong women, and I think that that was really cool. I know she was looking at a couple other people, but we got the bid, which was awesome. So we've been in there since February 1st, and already we've been growing the competitive team. I had a football team in the other day for strength conditioning, meeting with some physio teams, and I just hired a strength coach. So it's already like, I'm also impatient. So it's already growing into kind of what I want it to be. And it's just been so amazing. I also have really awesome coaches under me, so they can handle a lot of the more fitness-based classes. And so I really get to take time to develop out these athletes who really want to be developed. And that just makes my soul so happy. Helping female athletes grow and feel safe and powerful and empowered is probably the most important aspect to me right now. I feel like I've traveled all over the world. I've dealt with my fair share of great coaches and horrible coaches that I know what it's like to be a woman who feels unsafe in an environment that they used to love. And so that is the biggest part of what I want to do, is I want to make sure people are having fun but feel safe and feel like they're growing towards something bigger. And that's been really cool. Our female team right now is, I've got great female coaches, I've got great female athletes, and our boys are fine too, but I love having strong women in the gym who see each other as a team and people to push them to be better as opposed to competition. Because I feel like that, like as women, we're just always trained to be pinned up against each other. And so it's been really awesome to see like these really amazing standalone people go out of their way to help other women. So that's probably what I would end things with, is just, I love my strong bitches. So no, it's been so fun to just see everything come together and to actually use a lot of the trauma and the hardship that I went through and be able to use that to help other people, because I get to kind of reclaim that. And yeah, it's something I don't want anyone else to go through. And I was sad for myself that I had to go through a lot of that stuff. But if I can take that and help other people, it helps me as well.
Thanks so much for listening to episode 137 of Closer Mentality. You can hear Emelia and I's full interview on the Closer Mentality Uncensored YouTube channel. The link to that is in the show notes. That's all for this week. As always, I'm your host, Julia Mellett. See you next week.